They're bad at basically everything at this point. There's a few bright spots. Lejay, for example, is having a great year at the plate. And in the field, too, but a great year at the plate. So there, it's not all bad. But a lot of the talk last night and the reaction to the outcome of the game was, well, Mike Bianco he doesn't get this era. Like, the portal era is what's costing him. They do everything poorly. Little things poorly. It's not a lack of talent issue compared to their opponents when they're losing to High Point in Memphis and Arkansas State and Hawaii and getting run-ruled 3 times in 6 conference games. That's not because he didn't portal correctly. There's something else going on. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they've quit. I don't know if it's a confidence issue. I don't know if it's that they're not being coached well. I don't know. But I don't think that just the new era got him is the right answer either, because they don't field well, they don't pitch well, they don't situationally hit well. They're doing it all bad. And when you're doing it all bad, you can't just point to, they're not talented enough. You know what I mean? There's something else going on.
Yeah, and I don't know what that something else is. I don't. I do know that if you look at the box score from last night, you see Andrew Fisher in the cleanup spot going 0 for 4. He did drive in a run, but 0 for 4. And that's on the heels of having kind of a poor weekend at the plate. And this is a guy that was swinging it really, really well for Ole Miss just a couple of weeks ago. Luke Hill goes 0 for 4, batting in the 5-hole. He had hit leadoff for the last couple of weeks and had a little bit more production as of late than early. But putting it simply, Luke Hill has been a downgrade at shortstop from the run of shortstops that Ole Miss has had for the last decade and a half.
Since I moved here, worst defensive shortstop since I moved here in the fall of 2010.
And I don't think he's a terrible player. I mean, you look at his numbers at Arizona State a year ago. I mean, he was good as a true freshman. And he won their team's defensive MVP award. But he looks unsure. He looks uncertain. At times a little uncomfortable at short for Ole Miss. And look, Ole Miss has had a great deal of fortune at that position. And it's been a lockdown position also. You know, with the exception of that 1-year stint for Anthony Servideo, which would have been 2 if not for the COVID year, they've had like 3-year starters at shortstop. I mean, Greg Kessinger was the starter on opening day when he stepped on campus as a true freshman. He didn't hit in his freshman year, but that got better as time went along. But, I mean, going all the way back to Zach Cozart, Ole Miss has just been rock solid at shortstop. And they're not right now. Reagan Burford played second base last night, batted in the 9-hole. He went 0 for 4. Braden Randall is clearly the better of the two at shortstop. But Randall has had his issues at the plate, just like Reagan Burford has. And so they're trying to kind of figure out something, find out something to make it work there, especially with righty-lefty matchup. Neither of them have hit left-handers this year.
Whole roster hadn't hit left-handers, basically.
Judd Utermark played a really good game last night. He was 3 for 4 with 2 doubles. You want to talk about a guy that looks the part. But Jackson Ross has been the everyday first baseman. And Ross has been just very okay at first base. Fisher's played an okay third base. Outfield defense has been good for Ole Miss. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the week, I guess on Monday. And the merry-go-round at catcher continued last night. They've tried with Campbell Smithwick. They've tried with Eli Birch. Last night they tried with Trenton Lyons.
And that's wild, being as bad as they are behind the plate at catcher, considering Mike Bianco's track record of, it doesn't matter. If it's a transfer, like Stuart Turner, comes in, elite. If it's a homegrown guy, I mean, every single year, doesn't matter what the dude's name is, they have been basically elite at catcher every year since I moved here, and then now they are poor. That is the biggest glaring spotlight on this team, I think, is what is expected from a Mike Bianco team, because his track record tells you he's going to have an elite catcher. They don't have that.
And the thing about the catchers that Ole Miss has had, they haven't always hit, but they have always been rock solid defensively. You mentioned Stuart Turner. He's probably the biggest outlier, a guy that comes in from JUCO and plays 1 year and wins the Johnny Bench Award and then goes on to play pro ball. Hayden Dunhurst had been a mainstay behind the plate for the last few years and had been really, really solid defensively. Went through a little stretch where he didn't catch as well defensively, and he was just okay as a hitter. You go back to Cooper Johnson, had an absolute cannon. Took him a while. They've got a really, really talented catcher in Campbell Smithwick. I mean, there's a reason that he was thought so highly of by Pro Ball and could have gone anywhere in the country if he wanted to go to college, and he chose to stay home. And I think that does make it harder when you're a hometown kid. I mean, it's one thing to be from South Florida catching at Ole Miss and it not going well in your first year. It's another thing to be in your hometown where you were a star in high school and it's not going well. But it's hard right out of the gate. And Eli Birch has been maybe a little better defensively and a little better offensively, but not appreciably in either category. And Trenton Lyons had some of the same issues that those two guys have had behind the plate defensively. So, I don't know.
There's a lot of words, which is what you do for a living, so it's appropriate. That's a lot of words to say it's all bad.
There are, and we didn't even talk about pitching.
In fairness, injuries have harmed that, but guys that you would depend on the weekend, regardless of injuries, aren't good enough.
Yeah. Everybody that they threw in last night's game has had a role on the weekend in SEC play at some point this year. Austin Simmons was outstanding. Aside from that, it was pretty okay. Wes Mendez, Sam Takoyan, Mason Morris, Austin Simmons, Mitch Morrell, Gunnar Dennis, Braden Jones, Kyler Carmack. And Memphis got the win. We're back with you. Sports